Hello and welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that teaches you how to find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, heretofore known as a Gen Genie.
And I'm Renee Colvert, heretofore known as the person who asks questions.
I am Richard Castle, the producer, and I am the sidekick's sidekick.
Hey, I just got a sidekick.
This is
Oh, man.
Woo!
Things are looking up around here.
You get to stay on the couch.
Yeah.
Although, you know what? It's going to be a little all about Eve, and I'm going to try to take over. Watch out.
Sure,
Watch out.
And I think the listeners would agree, finally. About time. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Watch your back, Renee.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? How was your week?
Good. It's been good. So we're in the middle of August.
Yes,
back
we
to
are.
school. Yeah, I still have that. I haven't been to school in years. Years. But August is still like that excitement of like, all right, fresh start, here we go. But I'm
New
not
school
going anywhere.
supplies.
Yes,
I love the
exactly.
smell of new school supplies.
Me too.
Yeah.
Do they still buy lunch boxes and things? Like I still have my Speed Buggy lunchbox. I have a Little House on the Prairie lunchbox that was actually not mine, but I somehow have it.
I love this. Do you remember your lunchboxes? Did you have lunchboxes?
I never had lunch boxes. My parents would not spring for a lunchbox. I had
No.
brown paper bags. Yep.
I don't care for that.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, you know what? Rich, you want to go in together? We'll get her a lunchbox.
I got my kids several lunch boxes, and they continued to lose them. So they also eventually got brown paper bags.
That's only fair. Yeah.
There you go.
And those were made of metal back then, like and they would rust, and
Right.
so you had to get a new one every year. Remember that?
Yeah.
No, I don't, but I appreciate that.
Ours were.
You had to use the same paper bag every year.
I have to recycle paper bags. That's how my family was.
80s kids' lunchboxes were made of plastic, but then you've got recess, so you throw your lunchbox, and then it lasts, maybe a month or two before
Really?
the plastic busts up, and then you get a paper bag.
I'm learning so much.
Yo, lunchboxes. Welcome to our new podcast, The Truth
All
About
about
Your Lunchboxes.
So this week, if y'all, who am I? If y'all are on the Facebook group or follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'm getting there, guys. Every week I add another. You may have noticed I posted side-by-side pictures of my mother and her, I think it's second cousin, one time removed.
Yeah, this is nuts. Go to
Yeah.
Facebook immediately.
Yes.
Watch with us, because this is crazy what you're about to say.
Yes. And they look like the same person. And they never met. The only reason I know who this person was is because her son took a DNA test and matches us. And that actually was how we figured out who all of my third great grandfather's siblings were.
Right.
So this picture is crazy. And the first time I saw it, I thought I was losing my mind.
This makes me think of all doppelgangers.
Have you ever met your doppelganger, somebody that you thought was a doppelganger?
No, I get Holly Hunter a lot, but I think what that is, I think it's a tall forehead. So anybody who's got a super
I have a
big
tall forehead, but we look nothing alike.
like,
so
like Holly Hunter. Okay, yeah, I
no,
don't know.
I see Holly Hunter in
bit.
you. However, I'm not talking celebrity doppelgangers.
Oh, sure.
Because if you were talking about celebrity doppelgangers, mine, when I'm thinner and younger, is Renee Zellweger.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. And
But I would say still now. I don't think it's a thinner.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well,
No.
All right. I'm right. You're wrong. Moving on.
I wish, but no. Rich,
Who's yours?
do you have a doppelganger?
I don't have a doppel or a ganger or anything. No one has ever told me I look like somebody. No, you know what? I'm going to go back.
I know what
Years
you're going to
ago,
say. I know what you're going to say.
I went out for Halloween as George Michael, back in the 80s when like it was all faith and faith and faith. And and I had like the stubble and the sunglasses and the earring and the whole bit. So, but when I took that costume off, I was just rich.
That wasn't
what you were
what I
gonna
thought
say?
you were going to say. I could swear, and this is 30 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And things have changed since then. I think you will understand what I'm saying about this. Jay Leno.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yes, years ago I had like that lantern jaw that I had. No, it's true. It's true. And I had it fixed because I used to have these terrible headaches, and I got jaw surgery. And
You
no one
and
ever,
Carol Burnett.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I did it. I wanted to be just like Carol.
Don't we all? I remember when that happened, and you had a party at your house, and you answered the door, and I didn't recognize you.
I have pictures from back then, and I was still really like swollen and puffy, and all I could think of was, what the hell was I doing having a party, inviting people over to look at me like post-op?
No, that's fun. I like that.
Okay, so barring celebrities, neither of you have ever come face to face with somebody that you thought you looked like, or everybody was like, oh my God, I thought that was you.
Never face to face, but then there was a time somebody posted a picture on Facebook and said, "Rich, I thought this was you." And I normally when people say that, you go, "Oh, he really did look like me," But he was good looking, so I thought, well, all right, I'll take it. Yeah, why not?
Sure.
I'll swing the pendulum the other way when I'm meeting somebody and then they go to the table of somebody who's like, 50 years older, and they're just like, God, you guys look the same. I'm like, stop.
Not good for my ego.
Yeah.
You remind me of my grandmother.
Right. God damn it.
That's always good. I actually have met two people that I looked at them and I kept turning to people saying, does that look like me? Is that me up there?
Yeah.
Twice. And it was in the same year and in the same location.
Whoa. Where was it?
It was at Tibby's Music Hall.
Look at that. All right.
Well, actually, one was at the one in Newport Beach and one was at the one in Huntington Beach. It's a dinner theater that we singing waiters, whatever.
Amazing. I wanted you to say the Mirror, and I was like, Julie.
Well, you know how people sometimes end up looking like their dogs?
Yeah.
That is why I got a really cute dog, because I thought, well, eventually we'll start to look alike, and perhaps I'll take after him.
Perfect.
Morph into Buddy.
So wait,
Morphing
did
into
you get to meet
Buddy.
your doppelganger?
Yes. Well, one of them was a customer at the Newport Beach one. And I kept looking at her and then I started going to my friends saying, who does that look like? And they're all, that looks like you. So then I said, everybody thinks we look alike. And everybody at her table was like, oh yeah, you do.
Look at that.
So then the next one was somebody who was auditioning.
Cool.
At the other dinner theater that I happened to be watching. I don't know why I was watching somebody else's audition,
right?
But I guess that's what they used to do. And and again, everyone was like, "I thought that was you."
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
interesting.
That's all I have to say.
You don't
about
have their information, and we couldn't follow up with them to see if you're related.
to see how they look now.
Yeah.
See how we aged.
Yeah. But also,
I'm
like, if you
so
got
afraid
that
of that.
weird, distant cousin thing.
Yeah. I have a first cousin in Australia that looks very much like me, more so than anybody else in that family. We look very much alike.
Funny. God, that's so crazy.
I've done side-by-sides with them. In fact, I will post that on the Facebook group for everyone to see. Okay, so when I thought about the doppelganger thing, then I, of course, went to the black hole of YouTube.
Of course.
And there's this girl in Ireland who has... who found her doppelganger online.
Oh, cool.
And it's crazy how much they look alike. And the doppelganger happened to be Irish as well.
Okay.
And so they met, and they took a DNA test to see if they were related at all.
Right.
Spoiler alert, they were not related at all.
Not at all.
But what I did discover is that this woman has made a cottage industry of the doppelganger extravaganza.
Oh.
Because she now has a website called twinstrangers.com. And you can... go into the site and upload your picture, and there are thousands of other pictures uploaded, and they'll find your doppelganger out of those pictures.
I feel like this is also going to hurt my feelings, but I'm going to do it. What's the website called?
Twinstrangers.com.
Cool.
Now, here's the catch.
Okay.
So you log in, and then they show you, they're like, thanks for logging in. Now, here's one of your matches. And then they take you to somebody who looks kind of like you.
Sure.
You know.
Okay.
And then they said, to look at more matches, it's $4.99.
Okay. All right.
So, although I did discover a little trick, if you keep like going back to a different page and then going back to that page again, it'll show you a different one. So I did see 5 different doppelgangers, but at some point it caught on to what I was doing.
Sure, that's completely fair.
They look like you?
Yeah.
All is in a specific way. I mean, in a different way, but I could see how they arrived at that. Interestingly enough, they were all blonde,
Of course. Yeah.
which I'm not naturally. Spoiler alert.
No, but I think this whole doppelganger thing, when you're not related, is part of it is that it's really only from a certain angle. Like you look at somebody, and go, oh wow, that looks just like so and so, and then they turn a little bit, and you're, oh no, I see why I thought that, but no, it's just maybe the profile or a certain view.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to go to the website. You need to go to YouTube, and these 2 doppelgangers, the Irish doppelgangers, look like twins.
Crazy. But I do think hair is the prominent feature that people compare.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. As a hairdresser, I'll tell you.
I believe it. I know, but I think we're just like, oh, she got long hair. They look the same.
Yeah, sorry guys, but that's a very man thing to do.
I think you two both look alike.
We don't even have the same hair. We do. You know why? What? Tall forehead.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're both ladies, aren't you?
There we go. Same. You look the same. That's really interesting. Okay, so I guess, for your listeners, if they want to go to this twin website and then post it on the Facebook group, it'd be cool. I'd like to see what listeners look like in their doppelganger, or not even use the website. Like, who is your doppelganger?
Yes, let's have a whole doppelganger thread.
Yeah,
that'll be fun. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. Moving on. Renee,
yes.
I finally looked at your DNA matches.
Yeah.
And I'll post these graphics on the Facebook group.
Perfect.
At the same time that this is released.
Okay.
So I want to show you. When I went to your matches,
yes,
there were several leaves.
Okay.
Which
Dangling
tell
leaves.
you that you have shared ancestor hints.
Okay.
Meaning whoever is in your tree is also in that person's tree.
Cool.
Okay. So, and this is what that looks like, and I'll put that on the page. That's the front page,
Awesome.
and it says the
boy,
amount of
that's a lot.
shared DNA is 195, and it predicts that you're third cousins. Now, Ancestry doesn't do removeds or
Okay.
halves,
Sure.
or anything, and so it just says first, second, third. It's like whatever that number signifies in a solid cousin.
Great.
If that makes any sense
Those
at
are
all.
pretty good odds going in.
Sure. So this is SR. And then you go to his page and you click on his page, and it actually shows you who they believe your shared ancestors are.
Look at this.
So in this case, it's your second great grandparents, Daniel and Lucy. And so your great grandmother Alva had a sister named Antonia, and she had a son named Thurman. And he had a daughter whose initials are SR.
Interesting. This is cool.
And it tells us that you are actually second cousins once removed.
Look at this.
Yep.
Ancestry.
That's it.
And then, like, as you keep going down, you've got my grandparents.
You've got
in there,
your,
so it's
right.
like,
So
and my
Iva's
dad.
there, who
Yeah.
was Alva's daughter, Alva and Iva. Then your father is Rolla. Mm-hmm. And you.
Me.
You.
Look at that.
There you are.
This is really cool. That's
Yes.
awesome.
And you have a lot of those, actually.
Huh.
Yeah, and you don't have anything closer than the third cousin or second cousin once removed.
Right.
We now know. But you have a lot of shared ancestor hints.
It's still very cool to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And-
cool. Good job.
And you, now, because you don't know any of these people, you can go to their tree and
Yeah.
add it to your tree,
Look.
or add their people to your tree, and all of a sudden your tree is expanding.
This is very exciting.
Yes.
And all from spitting into a test tube.
Can you believe?
Yep.
Nuts.
It's magical.
I really like this. This is very interesting. So SR and I are probably the same age, or she's about the same age as my dad.
I would say she's the same age as your dad because she's the same generation as your dad. So
Okay.
around the same age as your
Okay.
dad.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
So, yeah.
All right.
So she is your dad's second cousin.
Neat. I'll have to follow up with my
Yeah.
mom and see.
Yeah.
Like, do we know an SR? Hey, great work.
Thank
Good
you so
job.
much. It
This
wasn't
is-
really work. It was
Well, I
easy.
know, but I
Okay.
think for your listeners who are just starting to dabble, like, it's too confusing. You're like, it's not.
Yeah.
You just go to your shaky leaf.
Go to
and
your
then
shaky leaf. You go to your shaky leaf and think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
Can I turn over a new leaf? What would I find under the? Is it like turning over a rock?
You've turned over far too many leaves. Actually, your tree is barren now.
I'm getting ready to leave now.
How does he do it? Okay. Moving on.
Moving on.
All right. So we're going to do a little bit of a backtrack here. Lisa Jan Walensky on Facebook
Okay.
said, okay, this is from a while ago, but I can't stop thinking about it. In regards to the NPE that led to a surprise change of direction in the inheritance of a British title.
Yeah.
I was
all right.
really surprised at the outcome because my impression was that a child born within a marriage, i.e. to a mother that is married, is legally of the marriage and the legal offspring of the father. We had to read cases in law school. So Lisa's a lawyer.
Okay.
We had to read cases in law school where all three adults involved acknowledged the biological relationship and yet couldn't overcome the legal presumption. So I'm curious how the case you talked about turned out the way it did, especially with the amount of time that has passed. And she said, in parentheses, have U.S. and English laws diverged that much? Can you point the way to the article? Yes, I reposted the article for her.
And then for our listeners, let's do a quick recap.
Let's just do a quick recap. So this gentleman named Simon Pringle was a baronet, a Scottish baronet, and the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council's landmark ruling stripped aristocrat Simon Pringle of his right to become a Scottish baronet after tests showed his grandfather was illegitimate because it was challenged by his cousin.
Right. Crazy.
Who had done a DNA test and discovered that he was not of that family. And so, so then I think it's kind of mean. Anywhoozle. So my thoughts about this.
Yes, let's hear it.
And I am an unabashed Anglophile, so I know some stuff. Regarding the aristocracy, at least from the Middle Ages to the 20th century, it has been believed that a royal family is placed there by God. Literally by God himself.
Okay.
Certainly in Tudor times, the king was considered the leader of whatever religion they were following. And nobody was higher than the king. When they were Catholic, during Henry VIII's, before he divorced his wife, the only one higher than the king was the Pope himself. And the Pope is the one who wouldn't allow for the divorce. And so then Henry VIII decided they were Protestant.
Great.
Yes.
That's a nice workaround. Yeah.
Yes. So it's always vital that kings were able to continue their bloodlines. It's very important because it's God that's telling you. Apparently.
God's going to be so mad at us.
Right. So if it was done outside the bonds of marriage, that child would not be recognized as an heir. Okay. Many kings notoriously have known to have children outside of their royal marriages. A good example is, once again, Henry VIII had at least 2 bastards that were given titles but never acknowledged publicly. The most famous was Henry Fitzroy, who was his son by Bessie Blount. So he acknowledged him by giving him the Fitzroy name, which was, I don't really know what that means, but because he was named Henry Fitzroy, that meant he acknowledged that he was his son.
Interesting.
All right. And there were many others. He had maybe 2 with Anne Boleyn's sister. I think The Other Boleyn Girl is about that, the movie. Sure. And also Elizabeth I, the so-called Virgin Queen, many believe that she was not only not a virgin, she actually had given birth to an illegitimate child that was raised by a family in the country. So obviously blood was important to continuing the royal line. My thinking is that because the Queen herself ordered the Privy Council of the highest court in the land to determine whether or not DNA results could be taken into consideration of the legitimacy of the heredity, I think they took that as a cue, at least within British aristocracy, that blood is important still.
Okay.
I think that's why that happened.
Yeah.
That combined with the fact that the only thing at stake was the actual title. There was no money or property involved. It was just a title.
It also seems like if you're enough of a pill to bring this up and try to strip somebody of their title, you're not going to quit once they say no once. So I think they were just like, it's fine. You can...
Yeah, let's just make this go away and live our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, probably. When they went into the court after it had been ruled that they could consider that, Mr. Pringle had already conceded that he's probably not going to
that's fine. Yeah.
So
look at that.
That's
the
end of that story. Thanks for that question. That was fun. And on that note, it is break time.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now back to Julie and Renee.
We're back.
Yahoo!
You know what time it is?
Why, yes, I do.
Ooh, are you ready?
It
It's
is.
time for the Gedmatch Jamboree! Part 2.
It's the Gedmatch Jamboree coming right at you.
Jack.
Shapoopy.
Oh, Shapoopy. Shapoopy didn't seem appropriate for this short one.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you guys called for rehearsals for this, I was like, it's too much. We don't need it, but it paid off. I'm glad we worked so hard.
Where was the harmony? I'm sorry.
You guys, we're improvising this.
All right.
It's improv. We're yes-anding. Okay. So when last we talked about Gedmatch,
Yes.
we were talking about the one-to-many table.
Right.
which is the most basic of tools on Gedmatch.
Right.
And I'm going to go back to that and talk through it a little more. And I'm going to show a graphic of the table on the Facebook group so that they can know what I'm talking about.
Great.
And if you're listening to this now but want to play along, go to the Facebook page and you can see the graphic as I talk about it.
Perfect.
How about that?
Great.
Genius.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're looking at the top of the graphic, and in the first box, it says kit number, which obviously that's the kit number. Now, each kit begins with a letter, A, M, T, H, W, E, blah, blah, blah. That informs you of what company the user tested with and where that DNA came from. And that helps. So, for instance, if it starts with an A, it's Ancestry. And if you're also on Ancestry, you should be a match to them on Ancestry.
Cool.
If you're not, there's a problem.
Okay.
Right. And so there's several different companies now. It's, we have a way more. We used to only have 3. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Cool, huh?
What are they going
Right.
to do when there's a company of the same letter? They'll
Well,
figure it out.
actually, they did change it. 23andMe used to be something else, but it's M now.
Oh,
so
okay, cool.
Yeah. Things happen. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. So type, next to that it says type, and underneath that it says F2V4, blah, blah, blah. That is the type of chip that was used by the company to test.
Cool.
If you're just beginning in this, that really means nothing to you, but I'm telling you. Okay, then there's an L that says list, and that's where if you click on that, you can see the list of other matches or the list of matches for that person.
Okay.
All right. Then there's a select button, which is you select it if you want to look in a chromosome browser with several people. We'll come to that later.
Okay.
Sex, obviously, we know what that is. Then there's GED Wikitree, and that tells you whether or not they have a GEDCOM or a family tree.
Oh, cool.
That you can click on and look at it. Not many people do. The more people are starting to understand that it's not difficult to come up with a GEDCOM.
Right.
I think the reason I resisted was because I didn't realize I could just download it from Ancestry.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of work
But
on the
it's
onset.
not.
Yeah.
It's super easy.
Okay.
Then it says haplogroup at the very top. At the left, it says MT. That stands for mitochondrial.
Cool.
From your mitochondria is the women's DNA. that was good. And it'll have, if you know it or if they know it, it'll tell you. I happen to be H23. Then next to it is Y, and that is obviously the Y DNA.
Gotcha.
These are autosomal tests, so unless you already knew what your haplogroup was, it probably isn't going to say anything. And again, it's not really important at this point.
Okay.
Okay. Then next to that, it says autosomal. And on the left, we spoke about the blue A last week. And I discovered, remember, we tried to figure out what that actually means. And it means autosomal, guys.
Oh,
Duh.
there we go. All right. Right in front of us the whole time.
Sure. And that's what you click on to do a one-to-one match. Cool. If you recall. And then it tells you the total, to the right, it says total CM, which is the total amount of centimorgans you share. And next to that, it says largest CM. It all pretty much speaks for itself. It's the largest segment of data that you share. And then gen, this is interesting. I believe it's supposed to tell you how many generations back your most recent common ancestor is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, it is. And it's helpful. However, it's usually a number point another number. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to get your head around what does 2.5 mean. But it may mean second cousin once removed.
Yeah.
You know.
That's cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, we're still moving along. On the next line, it says XDNA. And if you match somebody on the X, it will tell you, and it'll give you the amount of numbers to the right of that. You can click on that X, and it'll tell you where you match. No, you already know who it is on the right.
Oh, sure.
It'll tell you where you match on the X. And there's a lot of people think that if you match somebody from on an X,
right,
that this is only your maternal line.
Right.
That is not true.
Oh. Yeah, I would think that. Yeah.
It does limit the amount of people that it could be, or lines that it could be, because men women get 2 X's from their mother and 1 X from their father. Or yes, and because he got it from his mother.
Right. So a boy could be in the X, but it's
yes. There's a limited amount of lines that it can be
That
from.
makes sense.
So it's a little more advanced, and when you get a little more into it, it'll make sense.
Sure.
And there'll once again be a graphic to look at that. Okay, then over to the right, you have the name of the person or whatever their username is, and their, I almost said phone number. That'd be fun. And their email address.
Great. Terrific.
And there you go.
I'm glad you explained it, though, because when I was looking at the graphic, and you all, listeners, you can all look at it on the Facebook page when Julie puts it up there, but it's really kind of intimidating to look at that chart, and my eyes start to cross. So thank you for that.
Yeah, mine too. It's not very pretty. It's not a consumer-based thing, so you just have to...
Well, because they squish it all into one thing instead of like, here's individual columns.
Right.
Like 10 things on a column. You're like, that's too much. I don't know what this means.
It's very
But now I
scientific,
do.
but once you understand it, a lot of that is very helpful.
Right. Cool.
Right. So that is episode 2 of Gedmatch Jamboree. And we'll do another one maybe next week. Maybe we'll do it every other week. And now it's time for break number 2.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Genes, the new podcast starring Julie Dixon-Jackson with Renee Culver.
Hey, everybody, we're back.
Phew, Julie. Julie, I know what's coming. Boy, has it been a long week.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it from a few folks.
A few folks?
Yeah.
Every listener is like, what have you done?
Yeah.
Why would you make
Sorry,
us wait
guys.
for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Quite a cliffhanger.
Sorry, everyone. But you got to wait. You have patience as a virtue. I've been told. I don't have any of it myself, but
I've never tried it.
I am virtueless. Okay. So this is the Epic Odyssey Part 16, in case you haven't figured that out yet.
Yes.
When last we spoke, it was discovered that neither Malcolm nor John were my father. It was proven by DNA or lack thereof. And so now I was back at the beginning.
Yeah.
I had no idea who my father was. The one person who should know had no idea who my father was because she did not remember there ever being anybody else.
Yeah. Not to mention I think this is used in business a lot, but like the opportunity cost, considering like, look what we've missed out on. So I think that thing of like, because you had a bit to think maybe John's your dad. So all of that potential of like, I know him, it's still unit. And then that's also a poof.
That's
gone.
not even, now
Yeah.
it's like the worst case scenario almost that I literally don't know.
Yeah.
Plus I get people who are just saying, well, I guess you'll never know.
Right.
I hope you'll get over it.
Yeah.
And when somebody says that to me, damn straight, I'm not getting over it.
Of course not.
No, and I think a lot of people who just start looking for parents and things like that, using the DNA sites that we're talking about on this podcast, they're in the same position, and they, some of them are successful. So I assume, I don't know how this turns out, but I assume that you just go back and hope that you'll get another match,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And at that point, there was, they'd either just started or were about to begin doing Ancestry in Australia.
Okay.
So the pool was about to get a lot bigger, and I
Awesome.
just had a feeling that I needed to bide my time. However, I needed to fill my time
Yeah,
with
no
something.
kidding. Yeah.
So I asked a lot of questions of my biological mother every few days.
Right.
I would engage her, and I'd throw some questions at her until she shut me down, which
Right.
usually happened
Yeah.
at some point. She had, she was very patient, but she would always hit a point where she couldn't talk about it anymore.
Okay.
I asked her if there was a chance that she had suffered some kind of trauma, which I thought was entirely possible. That she
Also a
had
very
blocked
delicate
out.
way for you to ask.
Well, and she said no.
Yeah.
I also asked if there was any period of time that she couldn't account for. Mm-hmm. Like, did she ever wake up one morning and go, what happened?
Yeah.
How did I get here?
Yeah. Because it's such a common thing of like when things
Right.
get real rough, your brain's just like,
Yes.
yeah, let's not go ahead and remember
Right.
that. Delete. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I also asked her if she was ever under any kind of anesthesia, if she'd had any procedures, dental procedures, perhaps even.
Right.
She said no. She worked in a hospital at the time. And I got off on this whole thing about well, maybe there was an anesthesiologist that took advantage of her. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I, of course, went to that hospital website and did as much research as I could and looked up
Yeah.
anesthesiologists.
Of course you did.
And of course, it doesn't go back that far.
Right.
But I have to be proactive.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The World According to Garp, the movie, or read the book?
No.
Because
Sorry.
Garp's mother, Garp was conceived in the book, and Glenn Close plays his mother. She was a nurse, and she wanted to have a baby, but she wasn't married. So she found a guy who was in a coma who was able to, perform. And she climbed on top and had her, and that's
Oh
how
my
she.
God.
Yeah, that's in the story.
Wow.
John Irving, everybody, the author.
All right.
Yes.
John Irving, everybody.
at
I
that.
I
You
am
think your mom
ashamed
did
to
that? She
admit
climbed
I've
on
never
somebody
seen
in
The
a
World
coma?
According to Garp because
It's
my
probably
husband
good that you didn't, because you would have probably been like, Mom,
Yeah.
did this happen?
Maybe I should just point her in that direction.
God, especially with no reference, just like, hear me out. What about this? Did you climb on someone in a coma?
Oh, there's so much more that has been hypothesized.
that is just so wrong.
So awful. Yeah. Listen, I don't know your character. What are we climbing up on top of, Ma?
Guys, this is a serious podcast.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, focused. Yes.
All right, so I went as far as asking her if she ever socialized with any of the anesthesiologists that she worked with.
Sure.
And guess what? She had.
Uh-huh.
Well, she said there was one time a doctor had given her a ride home to her family's house in Mount Macedon.
Right.
And I said, well, what were the circumstances of that? And she's like, oh, I don't remember.
Okay.
I thought,
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah.
So,
Did you ask her if she had ever seen a production of Fiddler on the Roofie?
Oh, boy.
I'm just going to let that one lay there. All right. So one day I got this message from 23andMe from a gentleman who had been following the story, and it was a private message. And I'm going to read it to you word for word because it's good.
Okay.
Hi, Julie. I've been following your threads and can only imagine the emotional roller coaster you've been on trying to find your bio dad. Please take what I'm going to suggest to you with as much gravity as you feel it deserves. I love the way this guy talks.
That's elegant.
Yes. Ready? Mm-hmm. Is it possible that your father could be one of the Beatles? Hear me out.
Okay.
This guy thinks outside the box.
Sure.
Here's what he said. They toured Melbourne on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of June, 1964.
Okay, now it's making sense.
And you may be aware of the hysteria they created, especially amongst young ladies. Mm-hmm. There was a relatively recent documentary that aired on Australian TV about this topic. He couldn't remember the name, which revealed the extent that the Beatles and their entourage were visited in their hotel rooms by young women. I remember when I watched it, one of the insiders that they interviewed said something along the lines of, they must have been all shooting blanks because I'm surprised there wasn't a spate of pregnancies after that went on.
Huh.
I don't want to give you any false hope, but I just thought it was worth mentioning after I saw you post that you were probably conceived in June or July of 1964. Uh-huh. It fits. I didn't want to post such a crazy, in quotes, suggestion on the public forum and thought it was better to private message you. Well said. By the way, the impression I got from the documentary, I love this, of the young ladies involved was that they seemed like very nice but naive girls who were caught up in all the hysteria of Beatlemania at the time.
Yeah.
Please don't be offended at anything I've suggested. I am not.
No.
And I was not.
Julie, you may be the walrus.
Cuckoo, ka-choo! Oh, boy.
Do you think so? Your dad could be Paul McCartney?
Could be. Actually.
She's more of a Ringo, I think.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a superb message.
Yeah.
And here was my response.
Okay.
Dear, I don't know your name. This was truly my most favorite email ever. I capitalized all of ever, like I was yelling. What a delightful way to wake up. While it does sound like a ludicrous possibility, you can bet that I'm going to do my due diligence and research it. I appreciate your ability to think outside of the box and not be afraid to reach out. Thank you for your suggestion. Wouldn't it be crazy if you turned out to be right?
Yeah.
Warmest regards, Julie.
Love this.
So, I immediately found that documentary and watched it. Mm-hmm. I watched anything I could find out about when they were there. I looked at like footage of the crowds to see if I could see my mother in the crowd.
Yeah. No, yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
There was also an interesting little twist in this, in that particular, at the beginning of that tour in Australia, they had gone to Perth, I believe, first with a different drummer because Ringo had to get his tonsils out or something. And so they brought in a pretend drummer. I mean, he was a real drummer.
Sure, but not.
Did Ringo go to the hospital that your mother was working in?
No, he was in England still.
Okay.
But gosh, what a good, yeah.
Now, when you thought you were Irish, you
Was
died
he in
here.
a coma?
Right. Right.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, boy.
I can't get this image out of my head, so let's move on.
Okay. Wait, but hold on real quick. When you thought you were Irish, you dyed your hair red. What did you start talking in an accent? Did you?
In a Liverpudlian accent, sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Right?
And she went in a yellow submarine and took a tour of the
Great. You got to
the
lean in
coast,
on
yeah.
this kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, sorry, Julie. Continue.
We digress. So, yes, I researched it. I found out that there was this guy who Ringo actually met them in Melbourne, but there was this whole story that I read about the drummer who had had 3 days of glory of Beatlemania, and then Ringo got back and they just literally put him in a cab and sent him to the airport.
Oh,
and there
God.
are pictures of him just all by himself in the airport looking dejected.
sucks.
And I'm thinking, well, maybe that's him.
I can't believe Ringo had a ringer.
Puns, everyone.
Anybody? They don't get any better, people.
Truer words were never spoken. Okay. So, I kind of went off on this Beatles kick, and I sent a message to my mother and also my Aunt Val together so that it wouldn't sound as confronting, I guess.
Sure. Smart. Yeah.
And to see what both of them had to say about it, because Val was really trying her best to try to get information from me. And I asked them somewhat casually, hey, did you guys see the Beatles when they came to Melbourne?
Great. Yeah.
And Lynn said, no, I wasn't in town when they were there.
That's a very specific memory, but okay.
Right. And I said, well, where were you? And she said, I was working in a country hospital. Well, now, I had originally, when she got pregnant, she told me she was working at the hospital in Melbourne. So she obviously didn't know when the Beatles were there, but just assumed that,
Okay.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
All right.
But I kind of got onto, well, where were you? And she said she was working in this particular town, and she'd actually dated a guy there that she brought him up, and she told me his name, and she said when she went back to Melbourne, he actually followed her and kind of stalked her.
Mom, when I said, do you think it could be anybody else? Maybe bring this up.
Well, she still said she never had a physical relationship with him.
Okay.
So she said there was nothing, And I said, well, where were you living? And she told me that she was living with her uncle, Uncle Dave, who, of course, when I researched it, was her great aunt's husband.
Okay.
And her great aunt had already passed away. So she was living with this uncle.
Okay.
And he was 88 years old. So it's not an impossibility, but of course, then I had to go and research this guy's family. Yeah, I know. And she told me where she lived, and I went to the electoral rolls, and I found Uncle Dave, and I found the house that he lived in at that time, and then I went to Google Earth, which is an amazing
it's incredible.
tool, you guys, and I got a picture of that house.
Of course you did.
And then I sent that picture to Lynn and said, is this where you lived?
She's got to be losing her mind at this point.
She's like, why does she know all this stuff?
Insane. Yeah.
Yes. And she said yes. So then that was just like, that's the porch he left the flowers on.
Okay. Good job.
Right. And she said he was obsessed with her, but she never slept with him.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't know if she was giving me a clue or not. But I needed to know.
Yeah.
So guess what I did?
You looked up this guy.
Okay, so she had also told me, by the way, he died in 1973 in an unfortunate tractor incident.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not funny.
No, but but she actually knew that, and you
Yes,
figure someone
she
was
heard
stalking you that you might never have anything to do with them again, but yet she somehow knew that he died in an unfortunate tractor accident, which sounds highly suspect.
They were farmers. Oh, do you think she did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Joking. This is all for humor,
Hired a
everybody.
hitman.
All
Yeah.
right. So she gave me his name, and I proceeded to. This was over a period of months, everybody, because I was still, just trying everything I could to finally
Also
get
healing,
to the bottom
coping,
of this.
processing.
I was in also. I'll tell you, I was in a deep, deep depression.
Yeah.
I ate a lot of comfort foods in those months.
Who among us wouldn't? Of
Yes.
course. Of
Yes.
course.
So I got the name and I researched and I found his living sister within a couple of days because that's what I do. And I reached out to her and I told her the story.
Yeah.
And she was more than happy to take a DNA test for me.
Love it. Great job. Julie, you are persuasive.
I don't know how I do it.
It's pretty impressive.
Oh, boy.
Did you say something like, unless you want a
boy.
tractor to fall on you?
Oh boy.
All right. So then she told me where she lived. Hey, guys, guess what?
What?
She lived in exactly the same town as Road Trip Sharon.
Oh, fun.
She lived around the corner from Road Trip Sharon.
Perfect. All right.
Her name is not Road Trip Sharon.
Okay.
My friend Sharon.
Sure.
All right. So I asked her if she would go meet this lady. Her name was Ivy, and administer this test with her. So I sent her the test. She
Love
walked
this.
to her house and helped her take the
Supervised.
test, then stuck it in the mail
Look at this.
to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
Julie. I
know.
love it.
Yes.
Wait, so now did you have this premonition that Road Trip Sharon may meet somebody and so you left her with a bunch of DNA kits?
No, I sent it to her.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I'm like, listen, it may not be
That's
over.
weird.
Let me just leave 10 with you. Yeah. Okay.
No, I sent it, and it was another 23andMe test. I hadn't veered over to Ancestry yet at this time. I think it was my last 23andMe test.
Okay.
So Sharon texted me afterwards, and she said that Ivy was lovely. And she said to me there was something in her eyes that was familiar, like the way she looked at you. And she was inferring that she looked at you the way that I look at you, I guess. But I'd heard that before.
Yeah.
So I wasn't holding my breath at this point.
Also, there's the psychological element of you're going to believe what you want to believe in most of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just love that this woman that you didn't know and didn't know you was so willing to take a DNA test for you. I just, there's a kindness there that is really heartening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And she's not the only one. There were other people, too, that I won't get into that have taken the test for me just for my own peace of mind and just to help me, which I think is amazing.
People are good.
Yeah. So the test came back. I sent it in, and now I had to wait for the results of that test.
Yep.
And this is another cliffhanger. I'm so sorry.
No! Julie!
This is going to keep you coming back, right?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
In this episode, Julie turns over a rock and finds a beetle.
Oh! It's good. So we are out of here, everybody. Renee?
Yes.
Please tell people about yourself.
I would love to. So I have a podcast called Can I Pet Your Dog? And by the time this comes out tomorrow, Julie is going to be our guest on that podcast. So if ever you wanted to check it out, I would say tomorrow
Now's the
would be
time.
a good time. So just put Can I Pet Your Dog into the podcast search and we'll come up. It's going to be a lot of dog talk, but just muscle through it and then Julie will be there.
I'm so excited.
And I am Richard Castle, and you can go to my website and see a little bit about my music at richardcastle.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Castle Songs.
Boom. And guys, you can follow the podcast at Twitter at Cutoff Jeans Pod, or me at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. The Facebook group is called Cutoff Jeans Podcast. You have to answer a question. People are getting creative with their answers. I'm enjoying that.
Great.
Somebody said as their reason for wanting to join, they put in all caps, no problem, everybody.
I think it was a bot.
That's really funny. That's really funny. I like that.
It was enjoyable. Yes. I also, believe it or not, am finally on
Instagram?
Instagram. Thank you. And that's also Cutoff Jeans Podcast.
Great.
there you go. And I'm learning, everybody. Hey, I want to thank everybody for reaching out, and I've been getting some amazing messages from people that are so supportive and insightful and much appreciated. I appreciate it so much. Please, if you have those feelings that you want to tell me, please tell other people. And also maybe go to iTunes and write a review.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be swell. I'd appreciate that. We all would appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support, guys. Thanks for listening. And one more thing, the truth is in your genes.